Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Ram Prakash. I'm head of logistics planning, Daimler India Commercial Vehicles Private Limited. On behalf of Daimler India, SCPC, and KnoWerX, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the participants for the 10th edition of SCPC. Let me thank you all for joining us here today. So we have a packed agenda for the next 90 minutes. I'm sure this time will add a lot of value to all the participants in this topic of end-to-end supply chain visibility. Post-COVID, in fact, this topic has become a battle cry for most of the organizations. Disruptions created in the flow of containers, semiconductors, float glasses, packaging materials, plastic granules, and many more commodities, right? And I'm sure a lot of supply chain experts vouch that this is going to take months and months to recover. So given this criteria, any that has a better supply chain visibility can make better decisions to have a competitive edge in the market. So how are organizations managing it today or planning to manage it? This is a question in front of us. I'm eager with all of our keynote and the panel discussion colleagues. Before I hand over, just few hygiene topics. I would request to keep all the microphones on mute when not speaking. In case if you are having a connection problem, please turn off your video so that your streaming gets better. So with that, let me hand it over to Mr. Arindam Singh. So thank you very much. Over to you, Arindam.
Hello, yes.
Hi, this is Arvinder. Can you hear me?
Yes, Arvinder, loud and clear.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Arvinder here. Sorry about the technology snafu there. I want to do a quick introduction to the SCPC, which essentially, for those who are not aware, it stands for Supply Chain Practitioners Council. Essentially, it's a group of folks here that represent a very broad spectrum within supply chain. What is the objective of the SCPC? Primarily, I think this is an organization that thrives on enhancing peer network. This is where we come and share. Folks are welcome to come and share best practices, and in some cases, throw out some problems out there and dive into some problem solving. And of course, I think somewhere we do try and participate. We actually participate in some in influencing some decisions, policy decisions, particularly in the supply chain domain. How is SCPC structured? There really is no enrollment fee. This is not a subscription-based entity or organization. We want folks to volunteer. There has to be common passion towards supply chain and making a difference with supply chain. Folks are on this platform purely on a voluntary capacity. We expect knowledge sharing sessions, contribution towards their peers in the group on what's going on in supply chain, some of the advanced technology that's being used there, some of the best practices out there. This is where we come and share these, and throw ideas out there as well. We try and get together at least once a quarter, and of course, like what we are doing now, we host some events where we try and talk about matters that are current with what's going on in the supply chain area. What is a little bit about the role of some of the organizations that are involved. So Johnson & Johnson is a sponsor organization. There's always a host organization that helps in putting together events like we are right now. So a call out here to our friends at Daimler for having put this together. So there's always a host organization, and there's a steering committee within the SCPC that keeps the ship sailing. keeps it all together and keeps it interesting for that matter. Yeah. And then of course we have members, voluntary members that come in and participate, share, learn, network. This is what we refer to as the SCPC members. Who do we think should attend this forum? Why should folks attend this forum? Number one, network. Supply chain really is a small organization. I think it's a common network. Try and get solutions to some of the supply chain challenges you're having, to understand what's happening across industries. As I said earlier, develop a network of supply chain practitioners, and to grow your insights on what are some of the evolving trends out there. And of course, last but not least, come and share some of your organization's achievements. Yeah, there are several companies, organizations represented on the SCPC. I'll name a few: Daimler, Johnson & Johnson, General Mills. There's a lot. We can share some more information on this. Tata from India, Marico, Asian Paints, IBM, Coca-Cola, Flipkart, Novartis, Reliance, Hindustan Unilever. These are some of the organizations. And of course, from an academic standpoint, there is fair representation from the SP Jain Institute and IIT as well, Mumbai. At this point, what I'm going to do is do a quick introduction of our keynote speaker. We are very delighted to have with us also from Daimler, Mr. Muthu. Mr. Muthu, over 20 years experience. He currently is Vice President of Supply Management and Logistics at Daimler in India. He's been with Daimler since February 2019 across several functions, supply management, which is where he is, and prior to that in quality management and divisional management responsibilities that he had at Daimler's India commercial vehicles area. Prior to Daimler, he was with Ford, and just before that with Delphi. So without much ado, and once again, apologies for the technology snafu I had in the beginning. I want to take the stage, have Mr. Muthu take the stage over from here.
Okay, good afternoon. Let us sound check. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Yes.
So, good afternoon all, and a warm welcome from my side, and thank you for the SCPC organization or the group to give me this opportunity. Thank you, Ram, to put me into this group. So it's very good, and to come and talk to colleagues who are in the same field, who can quickly understand the challenges and appreciate the solution. So it's really an opportunity, and thanks for this one. I hope we will have a wonderful session. So I think I will have to spend some initial moments about end-to-end supply chain. I think while this was not a new word, but in the recent times, this is the most sought about the words, correct? So everybody talked about end-to-end visibility, end-to-end supply chain, and supply chain by itself is been in the talks since the pandemic started, since last year. So I would like to briefly touch upon what are the challenges which we have. I think the challenges, of course, is across all. It's not only specific to Daimler, but I think most of the challenges all of you across industries will have seen, primarily from supply chain point of view. And I would also touch upon how we see this and how we went about this one. Of course, there are many ideas and many approaches which individuals would have taken. I just wanted to touch upon how we went through this one. How I don't say went through, we are still going through the phases now, but how we are approaching and going towards this one. I think I don't want to touch upon the pandemic and everything which we all know and we have seen through it now. One thing which interesting came out, this was it surfaced out pretty or significant amount of white spots, I would say, in the whole process, correct? So while we all were very confident that ours is the best process and ours is the best systems.
SPC Prakash ne bola tha.
Yeah, to be frank, this situation pandemic opened up for us to understand there are a lot of white spots which we were not addressing. Okay, so it started with the lockdown initially in China. So we all went crazy to see, okay, how this is going to have an impact. Is there any of our supply chain parts which is available or which we are dependent on China? To be frank, it took some time for us to come to the clarity, because as a manufacturer, we always have visibility to one level down. Okay, we know who our suppliers are. And to a larger extent to the second level. So it's a tier 2. We know, okay, maybe some cases we know the tier 2s, is it from local India or is it coming from either market? But when this exercise started last year, we also realized there is also up to tier N where we need to understand maybe the last raw material or a small chip which is getting imported from China, which is having an impact to our production. So this was a eye opener. It took some time for us to really screen the full supply chain, understand till the last value chain of the raw material to see what is the influence of this impact. At that time, we were focusing more on China because that's how we thought the world will be impacted. But as we move forward, when it comes to April, May, we had to do this for all the exercises. So that is one thing. I think that's one portion of the challenges which we had. Then we had this challenges with respect to the freights, correct? Both in terms of availability of container, which is still there now, and second in terms of scarcity of spaces in the freight because of lockdowns. The airports were closed, so there is not much of connectivity. And this is one portion which was in the second half of this last year. And then the third portion came with respect to this raw materials, which is specific to India, I would say, in the last quarter or beginning of this quarter, where we had a sudden challenge with respect to the availability of steels. So there was a huge scarcity, which turned around the whole industry, and we went into nooks and corners to see where we could get the material. In the process, we also have other challenges like the manpower. I think most of us would have seen this one, where automotive is significantly man-dependent industry when it comes to tier 2, tier 3, or some specific processes. We had critical challenges, and then came the semiconductor, which is the next, I would say, next surprise or next crisis. It's being discussed. I think everybody knows it's being discussed at the highest level across the world, even at the political party. So semiconductor industries was something none of us expected, that a small chip can stop. I think there is significant impact it has already created. I saw an article yesterday, US is going to lose 1.2 million vehicle production in 2021 just because of semiconductors availability. This is what they are seeing it. Of course, we also have that impact in India, but the real impact is going to come in Q2, is what we understood now. And then now, in the last few weeks, we also have started having the problems of the plastics raw materials, resins and polymers is something which is coming up. So I think two ways of looking at it, this experience of 1 year, either we are lucky or totally unlucky. So it depends on how do we see it. No? So lucky in the terms of going through this one, trying to learn something out of it, for sure. Yes, I think each one of us had an opportunity to experience these challenges and see what best we will do it. And unfortunate is that obviously there is nothing like we have done and then we come to a normal state now. So we thought, okay, this will be next 2 months, we'll solve it. We'll come back to normal. That doesn't come, seems to be back. So when COVID was normal, we thought then RM came. So each and every time we come out, we have a bigger problem than we expected. So in that way, this journey is very interesting, very challenging. So in this context, so all these challenges and all these situations which happen, to a larger extent, it's not influenced by us. It's influenced by the external factors, I would say. There are processes, there are systems, there are talents and knowledge which is influenced by us in an organization. But these are factors which are not influenced by us. We have to survive this one. The question is how we are going to survive and how we are going to minimize the impact of this in our operations or in our organization. That's the primary focus here. So as I said, end-to-end visibility is one of the things. And I would touch upon 5 principles or 5 areas that we in Daimler focused to create an environment where we say the damages are minimum. I don't say damages are not there, but at least damages are one minimum, and two, damages are at least something which we could forecast. So those are the things I would say. The first one is transparency. Of course, that's the first one, where how transparent we are within the organization and outside the organization with all the stakeholders. In this case, I would say our suppliers, correct? In creating a full value chain and telling them, okay, this is what we have in hand, this is the plan what we have, and this is what it is going to be. And also from the supplier end, giving the full transparency. So I would say creating a transparency is the first step we said. When I say transparency is and complete visibility, okay, where you buy this raw material from, is it coming from this source, how much you have in inventory, etc., etc. So creating a full value chain transparency in terms of raw material, in terms of source, in terms of skill, in terms of capacity, etc., etc. Second one is engagement. I think this is one of the things I personally felt it is something went well for us. Normally, we used to have annual conferences with the suppliers once in a year, where we call everybody and then share our business plan, share our objectives, share our new initiatives, and then go back. And during the year, we always have a one-to-one discussion on a specific topics. Okay, the suppliers have a small performance problem, we call them and have a discussion, new product issue. So this is how we run a business. But what we realized was in this tough times, we thought the engagement is more important, because when we talked about transparency, that doesn't come by emails or doesn't come by phone calls. So we wanted to engage them in a more pragmatic way and more frequent way. And that is something which we did it. So we created a lot of platforms for our suppliers. We have around 400 suppliers in India. So we had every quarter, we had some program called Partners Connect. So since luckily digital platform also helped us, because it is much easier to organize meetings, large scale meetings now than in the previous world, where you have to ask people to travel all the way for one-day meeting. So this also helped us. So every quarter we had an engagement meeting with full supply base, telling about the real situation, telling about the future plan, what is the actions on the ground, everything. So transparently telling everything. Of course, in between, we also had a lot of engagements with the individual suppliers one-to-one. So this is one thing which was well appreciated, because they all felt that they know what's happening, that they are not in black box, they know what's happening, what's going to come. And we are very open in telling that what is the chance and what is the risk, because we also get a lot of information from the market, how the market is going to react, how the market is going to recover. So all those informations in some of the sessions, we also gave an insight about the economic recovery from external speakers. So basically, it's more of engagement, more of how we are thinking and what we are focusing more on that one. The third one is the collaboration. Of course, the transparency is one, to try to get everything, engagement, and third one is the collaboration. And there, how collaborative we are in terms of understanding each and every partner. So one of the classic things we found was some of the partners had some financial issues, working capital issues. So we try to see where we need to support. No, so for some cases we also supported raw materials, where we upfront paid it. Some cases we have to pay the cost. So these are the things where we thought, okay, we will be helping you to come out of this one. No? So that's one of the areas we talked about collaboration. Some suppliers had a huge crisis of manpower, skilled manpower at the initial phase. So how we can, as a manufacturer, support them by pulling some external resources that we know, trying to organize for them to support. So those are the things which we helped, because which normally the small players cannot do it. Right? They have a problem, they don't know how to handle it. So that is something which we thought collaboration, I would say collaboration is a very important aspect in this one. The fourth point I would say is agility. Correct? How quick we are in making decisions and how quick we are in adapting to the changes. Correct? So traditionally, if you see, we have a forecast for next 3 months, next 6 months, where we plan raw material, we produce everything. But we all told during this the collaboration and engagement, we told all of our suppliers, hey, we don't know how the market is going to recover. It could be U-shaped recovery, it could be V-shaped recovery, or W-shaped recovery. But we said that at the same time, we don't want to keep silent. So we were getting prepared according to how the market is required. So if the market is requiring shortly, we need to react much faster. So how fast we are going to be thinking. So at that point of time, we don't want anybody to come and say, okay, this was not in the plan, this is not what we forecasted, etc., etc. So we have just created this atmosphere of being more agile, more receptive to the customer demands and market demands, and see how quickly we can adapt to this and realize it much more. In normal terms, when the sales guys comes and asks, I need 100 vehicles more, we tell, okay, wait for another 3 months. And now we all decided, no, this is a precious one, so we should not lose time. We decided to do it immediately. And for that, how we prepare our organization, how we prepare our partners is what one example I would say, more agility. The last one I would say still we have not done. With all this, as I said, this crisis is something which is once in a lifetime for us. But we have done a lot of learnings, all this what I mentioned, but how we are going to make it more robust, more sustainable, and make it more as part of our integral process. I think that's one of the areas which we are also thinking now. So the answer is clear. Answer is digitalization, correct? So we need to bring all this into a digital platform so that we can run this in future for a similar crisis or a even lesser crisis. So we don't need to reinvent everything. I think that's one of the areas which we have not, I would say, done or implemented it, but that's one of the steps we said we need to do this one. So all these transparencies, all these networks, all these linkages, all this information that we gathered has to be put in a digital system, so that that's a step one, so that we have all the information in a digital platform. And a step two is to build an algorithms where the system itself will tell there is some alerts. That's something which we have not done, but in my view, that is the circle. Otherwise, all these efforts that we have done in the last 1 year will go waste. So this is the steps that we are going through. So as I said, transparency, engagement, collaboration, agility, and to sustain this in future, digitalization is one thing. So this is how we are going towards. If you ask me, is it 100% success? Definitely not. But it is definitely a well structured approach which helped us in a longer way than in many other ways. So had it been in a traditional approaches, we would have stumbled to all these pressures with a lot of information which we don't have and we don't know what to do. Simple example I will tell you: when the raw material crisis was there, we were normally we approach to the steel mills or the suppliers to get the raw material, but we know this raw material is used in supplier A, supplier B in different areas. So we try to move from one supplier to other supplier if he has some spare. So the question is, where is this information available and how we can share it prospectively and how we can take decision. So that helped us, but still it's a long way to go. We are also learning as we progress, as we learn new issues. Every time when we come out, we find some new global crisis coming up. But in general, our confidence is if we follow a structured approach, we can manage any crisis. I think that's one of the key learnings we had, and we are trying to deploy this in our organization. So that's the brief from my side. I hope I could give some insights about how we overcome this challenge and still struggling and trying to come out of this challenge. So that's our experience. If anyone has any detailed questions or think later, we can also exchange separately through Ram or to us. So thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for all.
Thank you so much, Muthu sir, for such a wonderful insights. So now we would open the stage to question and answer with the audience. So please feel free to post your questions in the chat box, and I will take it up with Mr. Muthu. So we have one question already from Periya Swami. So he says that engagement like engineering quality plays a key role when it comes to being agile, supply chain resiliency. How did we ensure? What are the ways to improve them?
Stakeholders engineering like quality. I think this is again comes to the topic of collaboration, agility, and transparency. Correct. So we did had these kind of issues when we need to take a decision on alternate materials usage or a simple deviation to support the production line. So we have a very small cross-functional team within our organization where everybody is equally coming together everybody comes together immediately and take a decision whether it is acceptable or not. Of course, keeping the focus on customers, correct? If any impact to customers, of course, we will not take a call. But if we all feel technically from the reliability point of view and from the quality point of view, if it is not having an impact, it is closed. So again, it comes to, in my view, transparency, agility, how well we are preparing our organization towards that one. Because when I say transparency, it's a supply chain problem. But the transparency that we created is everybody in the organization knows this challenge. It's not that only the supply chain team is having a problem chasing the suppliers and following the parts. The entire organization, which is not responsible for this, dealing with suppliers, are also aware about the challenges that we are facing. That's the environment that we create in the organization. So everybody knows that the whole world is in crisis and this team is focusing. And when there is a problem, they understand the severity of the problem, and then decisions are taken very quickly. That's how I would say. So in my view, creating a transparency and environment in the organization is more important.
All right, thank you. So we'll take up just a second. I see someone's mute comment. All right, yeah. So we'll take up the next question. That is from Mr. Shyam Singh. So I think there are two questions in that. When we talk about supply chain, how AI and ML playing role, and how are we shaping our supply chain functions to optimize it? That's one part. And the second part is we are witnessing a shift from forecast to demand-based supply planning. What are the KPIs needed to consider here?
Okay, so very good question. The first question now, so how AI and MI is playing a role? I think it's playing a very big role in every industry, and particularly in automotive and in supply chain, where we have a huge data. It's playing a very good role. Now the question is, have all the or have we started using all those or deploying all those? One, I would say not. So typically, if you see all the transformations on digital journeys, when it comes to industries, it starts with the when it comes to automotive, generally it starts with passenger car, and by the time it comes to commercial vehicle, it is generally the second step. So I would say the progress or the implementation of this one, to my knowledge, is not so great, but there are a lot of opportunities. We also are actively working on something in the similar lines. There is not one area. Now, if you look at the complete end-to-end, there are different pockets where your analytics can help, your artificial intelligence. So it's starting from your transactional process of getting a GRN to the gate invoice. That could be some AI which can play a bigger role, which can help us to streamline the process much earlier. Starting from ordering the parts to manage your inventory, correct? So traditionally we order parts based on standard inventory norms. Okay, I have ABC kind of suppliers or parts, and I have this fixed inventory, because that's how traditional systems are working. When it comes to the artificial intelligence and machine learning, we can have a dynamic ways of ordering, looking at the forecast, looking at the demand, and also looking at the individual suppliers' performances. And this is what we are now working on. Okay, we don't have a fixed, we don't want to have a fixed inventory norms, but we have some lot of factors. One is the demand, which is coming for the future. Second is the performance of the supplier. And third is the location. And third is the severity, and various factors you can build in. That's the advantage of having the machine learning. So you can add multiple factors and decide a model which can run your MRP. So that's something which is happening today. And we are also working on that side, so that will help us in reducing our inventory. And also the turnaround can be faster. So, and there are many areas across the value chain. So it's not restricted to one across. For example, quality. Parts quality is one of the areas which is very, very important. So we have huge data coming from quality. How we can use this data, which suppliers are using, reporting every day, and how we can use the data to predict some failures. This is something which we have done in our cases with respect to the market vehicles. We can also do this for all the suppliers. So suppliers are checking the data. Most of the problems comes when it comes to the integration, correct? We have 10 parts coming from 10 different suppliers. When it comes to the assembly plant, because of the interface, because of the interference or combination, there could be some issues. So if we have the data coming in with the prediction model, we can also say there can be go wrong. So many areas are there, but definitely the areas where we talk about inventory carrying cost and inventory reduction and ordering, that's one of the areas I would say is the biggest opportunities there. The second question, what are we witnessing shift from forecast to demand-based supply planning? To be frank with you, my personal experience, I have not seen that one. Yes, I also read a lot about this one, which is going to demand-based supply planning. It depends on the maturity of the market and the maturity of the product. Okay, so to be frank with you, in our industry, commercial vehicles in India, we are still going with forecast-based. And that's one of the challenges we have, no, in terms of a balance between your inventory and balance between your turnaround time. Because there are some cases, customers come and knock your door, I want the vehicles tomorrow, but our legacy processes will not allow it to happen. So it's a balance we are doing it. But I agree, yes, it's slowly going to it. Passenger vehicles, I think it's morely gone towards that one. It's more to do with how the customers are going to see that one. So in my personal view, being in commercial vehicle, it is still a long way to go. But yes, there are some industries going for it, particularly FMCG. They are purely going by demand-based one because that's all driven by the customer. So yes, it is a question of time by when our industry will go, but depends on individual industry.
So we have a follow-up question by Mr. Mayur. Says that, do we have the ecosystem ready for AI ML? He says that I believe majority of AI ML is used in e-commerce companies only.
No, I think that's true that they are using in e-commerce company, but it is now widely used in manufacturing industries. Widely used. I had an experience in implementing this in my earlier role in my previous role in Daimler in Japan. Excellent utilization in automotive industries in a day-to-day business process. So it's a question of process stability and a question of where we need to apply and where do we see the benefit. To a simple example, we have implemented in the warranty area, the failure prediction area, and we have saved close to 2 to 3% of warranty cost. So it's a huge cost. And if you look at many industries in North America, automotive, so I don't say it is specific to e-commerce. As I said, any technological enhancements or developments, it always starts with FMCG and later with pharmas, and then comes to automotive. In automotive, it comes to cars and then comes to commercial vehicle. That's the legacy of it, but there is nothing like ecosystem. It's available. It's all cloud-based, and we have big infrastructure available across the world. So it's a question of what is the right area where we need to implement it. So I think we are ready there. And even in India, many manufacturing companies are doing it already.
Great. So we'll move on to the next question by Mr. Nikhil. So he says, with the unprecedented events like COVID, semiconductor shortages, blockage of Suez Canal, container shortages, and recurring lockdowns, do you think supply chain models will now focus on building more extreme risk mitigation measures, leading to more inventory buildup and more forecasting errors?
Yes and no. So I think the knee-jerk reaction is to build more inventory. I think that's every organization is doing it, correct? Moment we have this problem, we all jumped and said, okay, let's build up inventory wherever possible. I think that's an immediate reaction, which most of us try to do it, but that's not a sustainable long-term solution. I would say it's a mix of multiple actions, I would say, correct? There are one action is where we need to increase inventory to a reasonable one. The most important action is to look at how to optimize our supply chain, correct? So for example, every manufacturer, every organization is looking for localization, correct, to keep the supplier base nearby. And one of the and in this examples, in case of COVID, it also pushed to a larger extent, which normally the rate at which the localization happens, and the COVID has brought us more opportunity to realize that we need to do much faster. So that's also another option which we are looking at. I think most of the organization are looking at to avoid dependency on certain markets. So that is one option which we are looking at. How to, again, this is not possible to localize everything because there are some commodities which are capital intensive and for the volume that we have in our market, it may not be justifiable. And that's one of the areas where we has to come together. Multiple organization has to come together to make the investment viable. But I think that is one option. I will not say option. That's one step that we try to bring closer. And the second step is to have multiple fallbacks, correct? So for example, we also looked at for supplies from China, why can't we also have a fallback from other projects? So the worst case is that the whole world will close. But in normal scenarios, there is one side closed, one side open. So there are multiple options, but I agree with you that inventory is one. There is no choice, and we also do the same way.
Right. So I think we'll take the last question, which is, I think, is similar based on the current question itself. So it is by Mr. Amarjit Singh. He says GID concepts were put to test during the COVID-19 crisis. Many are now thinking if we should move back to multi-kilon stocking, especially for long supply chains and multiple assembly points. What is your view on that?
Okay, so I mean, this is again a panic reaction. I think JIT by itself as a concept should not be a problem. But in my view, most of the JIT concepts that we implemented are all with the supply base which is nearby our locality, correct? I understand if it is long distance JIT supplies, it might create some problems in situations like this, like there could be certain lockdown, there could be some restrictions in movement. It can create it. But I don't think that this could be a temporary problem because JIT is a proven concept. I doubt that will go back and we go back to the traditional one. I think it's on the other way around. More and more we bring it to it. But yes, as much as possible, try to be closer to the location. That will be the much benefit. But I have this is my personal view. Okay, I may be wrong also. My personal view. Yes, this impact have some small troubles here and there, but it should not be a looking back. I don't think so.
All right, great. So I think from that, we have come to the end of the session one, I would say, which is of the keynote speaker. So thank you so much, Mr. Muthu, for sharing your insights, sharing your views. I'm sure the audience would have learned a lot from this session. Once again, thank you for taking out time and coming at SCPC session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So for the audience, thank you so much for this session. We will soon start with panel discussion. We'll just have a quick 2-minute break here. And in the break, we are going to actually run a couple of quizzes based on end-to-end supply chain. The winners of those quizzes will get coupons from KnoWerX Education. So just stay tuned. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to put up the question. Please put your answer in the chat box. Whoever gives the right answer first wins for that particular question. Pretty simple. All right, so I'll be just sharing my screen. All right, in the meanwhile, I would ask all the panelists to be ready. All right, is this available? Is this viewable to everyone?
Yes, Mr.
Yes, it is. Right, so let's go on to the first question.
Someone has typed the answer.
Oh, is it already?
It's okay.
Just a second. Right. So what would be required first to improve end-to-end visibility? High-speed networking infrastructure with all partners, mutual trust between partners, ERP system implemented with all partners, confidentially contract between partners. So I think we have multiple answers. We have the right answer already. All right, so So Tejaswini, would you be able to say who has posted the right answer first and who would take away that prize for this question? So I believe Mr. Prabhu has given the right answer first. So I think he would be the winner for this particular question. Let's move on to the second question. If end-to-end supply chain visibility is created, which function will have its dependency reduced? Demand management, operational planning, forecasting, supply relationship management. Amazing. Amazing. So we're getting few answers there. All right, I think we have got multiple answers, and the correct answer for this particular question is C, forecasting, undoubtedly. So I think Mr. Mayur has given the answer first, so he would be the winner for this particular round. I would request both the winners to please connect with KnoWerX or with me personally, and we would issue the coupons to you. Thank you so much. And now we'll move on to our next round. All right, so I would request, let me just actually start with the panel discussion introduction. Okay, just give me a minute. All right, so let's start on with the panel discussion, and the topic for today's panel discussion is how does end-to-end visibility impact core processes of supply chain? All right, so we have a moderator and three panelists for this particular topic. So let me start by introducing the moderator for the event who so he's a supply chain leader with over 20 years of experience across various industries like automobile, agriculture, and service. Highly skilled in strategic planning, flawless operations management, digital supply chain, value stream mapping, etc. He's a favorite among his colleagues and co-workers. Please join me to welcome the Director of Global Supply Chain at Eden India, Mr. Umakanth Nair. Uma, sir, there?
Yes, I'm there. Thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So let's move on to the next person. The first panelist is a lady who is a globally accomplished IT business transformation leader with 16 years of experience. She has either led or implemented over 30 SAP projects. She has also authored a book on building demand-driven supply chains with SAP SNC that illustrates how organizations can become demand-driven with impetus of customer centricity and real-time POS data rather than historical forecasts. She is DDLP certified professional as well. Currently working as an IT lead with Mondelez International. Please welcome Ms. Sonal Dhawan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. All right. So let's for the next panelist is a veteran in supply chain field with 24 years of experience, mainly into digital transformation, strategic planning, supply chain solutions, consulting assignments, ERP implementations, and support and program management. He has various publications under his name and has led various IP creations as well. One of them is iVision, which is joint IP creation by HCL and Cisco to ensure supply chain visibility and collaboration in the extended enterprise. A CSCP certified professional working as a solution director with HCL. Please welcome Mr. Arindam Singh.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Arindam here.
Hey.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. So the last on our panel is an accomplished and multifaceted procurement professional with over 14 years of professional expertise in international purchasing, global sourcing, managing material needs, controlling inventory, expediting and managing timely delivery of materials. He's a CSCP and CLTD certified professional working with Delta Electronics India as Assistant General Manager Supply Chain. Please welcome Mr. Kamaljeet Singh.
Good afternoon to all of you.
Welcome.
You will get a lot of information from this panel, and we we all here to how we can strengthen the visibility across the supply chain. That is the need of the hour right now after pandemic effect. Welcome you all.
Right. So warm welcome to all the panelists and moderators. So Uma sir, I would now hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you, and appreciate the team inviting me. Nistush, especially to you and Ravindra. Thank you very much for adding us into this discussion. This is more important in more than any time. This is important for all of us to learn from each other. As we are getting into the topic, and I also want to welcome the panel team members. It's going to be an exciting one. I just want to touch base on what we are talking about here, and also specifically connecting with Mr. Muthu when he was sharing. I was just reflecting back, whatever he was sharing, is there anything which is different than any supply chain specialist in today's condition is going through? All the points what he was mentioning, from the extended challenges, screening of the full supply chain, going beyond your current supplier, getting into the next level of supply chain, which is tier 1, 2, 3. These are all operational regular challenges what we are currently facing. And that also gives us the right opportunity in today's world to also think differently and digital. That's exactly what is end-to-end supply chain, what everybody is aspiring to. So we will talk about that as we move along. But at the same time, we will have some time reserved towards the end to talk or get some questions and learn together. So with that, I will start with this panel directly. Like we already talked about end-to-end. So we would like to understand from the panel to start with. It is not any, it's not a talk anymore. Like if I talk about my own organization, we are talking on this. We have started working on multiple things already. I heard Mr. Muthu talking about some of those elements, startup activities, but at the same time, every industry or every company is moving towards the same direction. Some collaboration with external partners, some internally managed well within the IT functions, but all of us are doing something. So the first question to the panel here is, I'm talking about end-to-end. Since it is not a buzzword, it's a need, challenge, pain each one of us are going through. Can you share your experience on what is E2E? Is it end-to-end or it is start to end, what it is, and what are the challenges what you are facing? Maybe we can start with Mr. Kamal, and then Arindam, you can add on from your technology side of it.
Thank you, Mr. Nair. Kamaljeet here. So as Mr. Nair has also told that we have a visibility across the supply chain. End-to-end, it means how you are connecting your upstream partners and the downstream partners. And most probably we are moving to the extended supply chain. It's the evolution of the supply chain, and it's a need of the hour. And according to our experiences right now, because after COVID, the entire supply chain has been changed. So as Mr. Nair has told, that the transparency, collaboration, trust is most important. The next important thing is how you are connecting your partners across the supply chain, and that only be done if you have an infrastructure and a technology driven supply chain. And as per our scenario, because after pandemic there is scarcity of all the materials. Now we are implementing how we are connecting to the tier 1 supplier, because if you talk about the end-to-end supply chain, even only 6% of the global supply chains are, if they totally says that they are connected to end-to-end, till 94% of the total supply chain is still not connected to end-to-end. How the end customers get to know that what is the requirement as of now, and how that requirement will be shared upstream the supply chain till supplier tier 2. So so here we are faced a lot of issues in our because we are in a telecom sector, and we basically supply chain is basically a make to order supply chain. So we don't know even what are the orders we are coming, how we are converting that particular orders into a demand driven supply chain. So we already done a lot of now. We are finding out the across the supply chain what are the critical parts which we are there, what is the origin sources are there, how we are substituting that original sources across a different supply chain, not only from, because most of them 100% 90% of the total supply chain is dependent on the China. So last time also not this, because this need of our has been find out earlier also, when there is a trade war is going among China and USA. So due to which at that time also our supply chain has been impacted a lot. From that point of view, we are putting a lot of focus on domestic or the localization across India, because now a lot of startups are going out, and a lot of the people's are technology is also going on. So we are key sourcing, focusing on how we are substituting the critical part across the supply chain. And next most important that I want to add it here, because the most important thing is the financial run test, because due to COVID now a lot of the companies got bankrupt, they don't have any cash flow as of now. So we have now already stressed our supply chain. We have to have a run test of the financial of across supply chain, especially a tier 1 supplier, tier 2 suppliers. So we have done a practice over here that many, because after immediately when the supply chains are resumed, now all the tier 2 suppliers especially, they don't have financials to purchase the raw materials. So at that time we have done some kitty point of here in our organization. We have supported all the supply chains or the partners who need some financial background from our side, so that immediately we can resume the supply chain. So this is the most important impact, and this can only be done when we have a trust among the supply chain, and all the supply chains are interconnected. So now earlier the companies, when we're talking about the budgets regarding technological upgrades in the terms of supply chain, they are cutting the budgets. Now all of the supply chain, all our organizations are identifying that yes, this is the most important thing. How we can implement the control towers, how we can find out what is the scarcity is going on, how the supply chain is being impacted. Because right now even today also, now again there is an impacting that we are not getting the containers from the upcoming supplier from the China shipments. So what with the material is being moved. One of the cases is that last time also that we are under the supply chain, and we have completely get the material, but the material is not moved from the port. So it due to which also there is a delay. How that part, how 3PL 4PLs, they are supporting us to connect across the supply chain. That is most important as of now. And there is a lot of technology backgrounds are there, and this visibility can only be done, or as I got to know that the AI ML program, that only be run when we have a data. Mostly we don't have data across the supply chain, that how, because without data we cannot analyze. Data can only be done when all supply chains are connected with the help of technology. What shipments are, what are the impacts shipments are coming from the tier 2 supplier, when it will reach to the tier 1 supplier, when tier supplier to produce the material, what is the incoming rejections are there, how that can be connected, that can only be done with the help of a data. So visibility can only be done with when all the partners are integrated, because technological backgrounds or barriers are also there when a lot of disconnected ERPs are there, or some are using a ERP, some using the SAP. So this technological background or the backlogs we have to be identified, then only we will be impacted to the supply. And this cannot be done in a single day. First we have to connect the step 1, but I have one supplier, or we are immediately a dealer, distributors, then we have to move across to a tier 2. Yes, when this can only be done when we have a trust, transparency among the supply chains. Thank you, sir.
Sure. And quickly, Mr. Arindam can add on that, like talking about multiple pieces, do we need to focus on the entire piece, or from your experience, do we want to segment it, or have it at a different piece level approach?
We have to take a holistic approach. We have to take an integrated approach. Now, to add to what Kamaljeet has mentioned, and I think if you see the progression of industry, industry is progressing from integrated enterprise to extended enterprise to the network enterprise. Integrated enterprise is a kind of enterprise where internal function of an enterprise is integrated through some ERP product, SAP, Oracle, whatever. Now, the company is internally integrated. There is a natural tendency to graduate to the next level. So at the next level, what I can do, the way I'm internally talking to each department of the company seamlessly, I want to talk to or interact with my partner seamlessly. So the concept of extended enterprise is coming. So where the OEM as a nucleus organization, as a center point, focus point, is connecting with the 3PL, 4PL, contract manufacturer, dealer, distributor, transactional supplier, strategic supplier, the engineering design company, everyone, all, if you think a 360-degree approach, the extended enterprise is gradually helping to create the partner ecosystem. All kind of supply chain partner, be it in the procurement side or the distribution side or the logistics side, or any kind of certification, engineering, drawing, design, any side. I'm connecting, and not only the tier 1 supplier partner, I'm gradually including tier 2 or tier 3 partner also, all the cases into the umbrella, and creating a complete partner ecosystem, and to get a holistic approach. This is the end-to-end visibility in my definition. 3 fundamental things are required to ensure this end-to-end visibility. First thing is connecting all the partners in the heterogeneous IT landscape, because it is obvious that partner will be in different IT system. So whatever technological things are there, like API, technology part I'll come later. Various technological tools are there for the integration. There's a layer 1 is the integration. Layer 2 is basically we create a dashboard, a visibility dashboard to have a visualization of activities and operation end to end. And this is the second layer. And the third layer is the analytics. As Muthu has discussed about analytics a lot. There's a huge application of descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics in this particularly end-to-end visibility game. And today, fortunately, there are a lot of products has come as a supply chain control tower or digital control tower, which is enabling organizations and partners to connect, and to form a perfect extended enterprise. Like SAP has the control tower product. I come to the technology later, right? Blue Yonder has the Luminate control tower. We have E2 Open, GT Nexus. All these products are there to help organization graduating from integrated enterprise to the extended enterprise. Another level of automation is there where the network enterprise, which is more sophisticated than the extended enterprise, where huge amount of digitalization is used and various digital levers are used to make this value chain network. So in this case, the linear value chain is transforming into a network value chain, a cyclical value chain, because of the high level of collaboration and seamless interaction through various digitalization levers. So I think there are many questions will come on the technological enabled of this end-to-end enterprise. So I can discuss this particular topic later, but in my opinion, fundamentally the end-to-end visibility is creation of a perfect partner ecosystem, partner from all the side, selling, procurement, contract manufacturing, logistics, any kind of technical consulting, and integrate not only level 1 partners, level 2, level 3 partners also, and create an ecosystem where I can get the visibility, get the alert in the forms of disruption, possible disruption that is coming, and the predictive analytics will help me to identify where the disruption may come. And prescriptive analytics will help me to understand how to overcome this disruption. And descriptive analytics will help me to calculate all the KPI values that can be deduced from the past transactions. So all these analytics, descriptive and prescriptive, play important role and integral part to ensure the visibility and actionable intelligence. So that thing we have to keep in mind, and that is from my side about the end-to-end visibility. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Sen. So that was quick and was able to understand at a top level what we are talking about, and the segmentation part you covered it well, that we are talking about integration and end-to-end. Quick time check to all of us that we will have at least 15 more minutes for the effective talks, and then we'll keep open for the debate, so we can keep it short, crisp, and then impactful. So the second one is more on the visibility. Like we heard about the visibility piece, or we are hearing it from a good long time. Some of them are early adapters. Some of the companies have not taken it during the early days. It was more a wait and watch. We are in a unique situation today with the pandemic, with vaccines out, and every industry is also moving up from their overall market positioning, volumes, and customer expectation. Mr. Muthu also touched base on the revised or the volumes which were coming in, and then the approach what the Daimler team is taking. What are the significant challenges in supply chain, especially on the procurement side or logistics, which we need to discuss and address in this kind of forums? And I'm just starting it with Ms. Sonal to add on her insights, and then Kamaljeet can add on.
Thank you, Mr. Uma. So one of the things I would like to mention is what COVID-19 has done is it has shined the spotlight on the supply chain vulnerabilities. What we used to think earlier was that this COVID-19 is like a black swan event. The disruptions at Foxconn earlier for the Apple semicon suppliers, we used to kind of brush it off as one-off events, which the pandemic has taught us is that disruptions are here to stay, and it is very important that how we respond to these rather than reacting to these and rather than brushing it off. So one of the things I would like to mention is that, yes, there are external challenges and then there are internal challenges. On the external challenges, what we've seen across industries is that there is a lack of understanding of the complete supply chain. What Mr. Muthu opined and what the fellow panelists also mentioned and what you also mentioned, Mr. Uma, that somewhere we do not have visibility to our beyond our tier 1. We do not have visibility on our customers, what are their ordering patterns, and somehow we lose the interconnected supply chain. So that is the first one, the external challenge, how we synchronize our efforts in connecting tier N suppliers. I would not go to tier 1, beyond tier 1, I would say that, or tier 2, I would say tier N. And whatever is important to your industry, for instance, for the semicon industry, wherein I have done many projects, it is very important to have the last tier also connected, because a small thing like an iPhone glass could mar your supply chain entirely. It could have a knock-on impact. The second thing I would like to mention, and this is something that we all have witnessed last year, is that we saw that demand forecasting based on historical forecasts, they completely went for a toss. So what were the assumptions of yesterday that I would like to leverage my shipment history and I would like to forecast based on that, that completely changed because there was no precedence that was there of the sales variability that we were seeing with the COVID and before that. So how can you compare? So the second thing is, again, tapping onto the external market, understanding that what the customer requirements are and have a real sense of the demand. The third thing is internally focused, wherein I would say that make your supply chain nimble and have an understanding of where the weaknesses of supply chain are within the company, within the production processes, within the distribution processes, because here we saw a lot of contrast. Some companies, they went out of business, whereas others, they were so quick to configure their supply chains, people like General Motors, people like Ford, even Apple, and for that matter, I will not talk specifically about Mondelez, but Cadbury also started producing visors in their Birmingham factory. So companies that or organizations that were demand centric and that had a handle on their supply chain, on their internal production and the distribution processes were quick to rise to the occasion and then also help the governments in helping out with the PPE kits or with the 3D printing of the visors, or GM kind of rolling out the ventilators and so on. The fourth thing internally, again, is inventory management. So a lot of times we see that information equals inventory. So we do not know what is stocked in our supply chains across the echelons, and it is key to have visibility on that as maintaining the right inventory norms and also understanding what is it that we should be maintaining. And to sum it up, I would say that how do you course correct these is, how do you overcome these is build a supply chain which is externally focused, understand what the demand signals are, what is happening out there, have a sense of the real demand signals, have a sense of what are the key factors outside, what are the real insights that can only come in with the data, and also the social and the other social intelligence channels that we see. For instance, it took around when the first case of COVID was found out in November 2019 in China, in Wuhan, there was a significant lag around 3 or 4 months between the time when other countries started getting into lockdowns. So was there that, were the companies really using those predictive insights? Were they really geared up for the event, that what is going to happen to us when this could have a cascading effect on our supply chains, and how do we gear up for that? So one is that, and the second one is having visibility. I would not say that everybody goes ahead and implements the control tower or the supply chain digital twin, but rather I would say that keep a focus on what are your weaknesses in the supply chain. If you think that you are in the shipping and transportation business, then the last mile connectivity is very important, and something like a transportation control tower would make more of sense. If you are in the semicon business like an Apple, and you have whole of a significant part of your supply chain that is regional in Asia, then getting transparency around it, getting traceability around it would help. Similarly, for pharma companies, it would really help, like we've seen that how the raw material shortages for the vaccine could have a snowballing effect on the manufacturing, and it could kind of throw out the inoculation program out of gear. So those are some of the things I would say that I would like to close with. Build a supply chain that is externally focused, demand-centric, resilient, and responsive. That's it.
Thank you. Excellent. Kamaljeet.
Yes, sir. As you told me, so the first a basic, what is the first challenge that we are facing in the procurement regarding? So first challenge, because this visibility cannot be done in a single day. So visibility, how first we have to find out what the best main challenge is. First we have to find out what is the critical components from sourcing point of view, from procurement point of view, from entire supply chain point of view. What are the critical suppliers? So we should go with first with them. And most important for the supply chain, as Mr. Nair has told that trust, because even the nucleus company, don't want to share their complete information with the suppliers, because that suppliers are supplying material to their competitors also. So the most important is the trust. How this is the most important challenge that we even facing in our industry, because in the telecom industry we are the pioneer in as a Delta, and we are giving to all across all telecom operators. So even that they are giving from other customers also.
नाही
So
लाईट गेली ना त्यामुळे तिचं ते नेट बंद पडलं असेल.
please
Unmute, please.
Voice. So find out the first or critical components, go with that suppliers, and understand now the supply chain leaders or their supply chain the persons or the down the line across they need also know understand why is visibility required, and how we can convey this message to our end customer and suppliers also. So what data can be shared with them, how do we have to sign, because during that we have to find out, yes, our supply chain should be running, and we are doing a lot of NDAs also with across all the suppliers, tier 1 suppliers. And we even a Delta as a global organization, we even not reached to the entire tier 2 suppliers. We are connecting through tier 1 suppliers only, because even if we take a small for example, we are talking about the packing, which is a very simple commodity. We are connected with a direct supplier. Then how that supplier is connected with their craft papers, how they're selected, because that key supplier, that is tier 2 suppliers, even don't have a even have a their ERPs, or even they don't have their and their SAPs are along with them. So connectivity with them, because if they didn't give us a raw material to the tier 1 suppliers, and tier 2 suppliers, tier 1 suppliers will not give us even a packing is not there in the factory, even a screw or even a hardware is not in the factory, that can even disturb the supply chain. So that is most important. That is the basic challenge we are facing in the upstream. And in the downstream point of view, yes, how we are getting all the information from our end customers, how that we are getting information from our dealers, from our distributors. So that information, how it's clubbed, and this is put into the SAP, and at that information is being floated to across the different SOPs. Because most important is that how when we run the supply chain, or when they run the MPR, MRP and MPS, at that time also, now we are in our this crisis situation, we are giving more SOPs to our China suppliers. But after that, when we are not getting any supply chain from China, and due to which seaports are congested, and we are not getting supply chain from last 1, 2 months, 3 months, we have spent millions of dollars in terms of air freights. Now we understand that how we can get it locally or strategically. So now we have done one collaboration among all the key strategic suppliers, which is across China or across Taiwan. We had a meeting with them. We asked them, yes, the volume in India is growing. If you can establish some CKD business or SKD type of a business in India, or we have done some type of the material from there, they do a stocking for us. We cannot create a build of inventory or at every point across the supply chain. So this is a main challenges which we have to run at the very basic levels. Then only we'll be able to go to digitalization, and then we have to have a AI, ML. That's a very far away as of now in our Indian supply chain, if we're basically talking about proxy organizations.
Sure, but and thanks, Kamaljeet, for adding on that. But at the same time, when we are getting into the real change, which is today's requirement, with all what we are going through, COVID came in, and before that, we used to have discussions, panel discussions. We used to have events where we used to discuss about the digitalization side of it. But personally, when I look back from my side, as well as when I connect with the industry partners, many companies, industries who were never thought that we are going to invest in new technologies. It was more of return on investment and all those things. But it actually, people started investing all of a sudden because of COVID, because there is no other way around. What are your experience in this area? Which part of supply chain needs faster focus and transformation? Also aligning to what Mr. Muthu also mentioned. So is it more of the planning side of it, forecasting, or maybe the strategic sourcing itself, or we come inside within the four walls inventory management? So I would ask Mr. Arindam again pitch in here, and then Ms. Sonal can add on to that quickly.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, thanks. See, now if you see this, which area of supply chain we should focus? We should focus both in the supply chain planning side and supply chain execution side. Both the things go hand in hand. If you think of the supply chain planning side, in planning side, three things comes. First, strategic planning, then sales and operation planning, which we call SNOP, and then come the production planning, the tactical level planning, where you do the MPS and MRP. Now, and also the execution, like your procurement, distribution, logistics, aftermarket, these are all part of the execution side. My suggestion is, if you see now, the planning is the triggering point, right? Now, SNOP, the most important thing a company does is the SNOP process. Now, in the SNOP, whatever the SNOP I am doing, the demand planning, supply planning, inventory optimization, or the financial budgeting, it should be shared with my partners to a certain extent, with whom we have try to build an ecosystem. And then their SNOP, because their SNOP is depending on my SNOP to a certain extent. OEM's SNOP should be known to their supplier's SNOP, right? Similarly, and nowadays what happened, there is the concept of collaborative planning already there in the core ERP product. Now this cloud-based, SaaS-based product, when thinking of the digital control tower or supply chain control tower, sharing of this information or kind of exchanging the information become much more easier, right? Using the technology. Now this is the planning side. Now second thing is the SNOP side I mentioned. If you think of the production planning side, as I know that my contract manufacturer or my supplier knows what is my master production schedule or MPS for this particular month. Accordingly, they can construct their MPS and they run their MRP, right? So that information needs to be exchanged and shared among the partner ecosystem. Second thing is, here you come to the execution side, the procurement. I'm doing the procurement. I raise a purchase order, create a purchase requisition, convert into PO, send to my my vendor's place. What is the execution of the job? What is in the vendor's place? As the OEM should have the visibility, so that OEM can anticipate that what is the expected time of receiving of the raw material, so that I can push it to issue to the shop floor. Now, all these things, visibility is there in the planning side, execution side, so that, and through the control tower or digital control tower, things become much more easier, right? One more thing that I should mention, that if you see, all these things are enabled by technology. The digital, some you mentioned in the question that some digital lever in the companies were a little bit reluctant in investing, but in the post-COVID, they're forced to invest. These things are enabled mainly through information exchange happen mostly today, mostly through API management platform, various APIs, cloud APIs. There are various products like MuleSoft and various other products. They're very good in integrating systems in the heterogeneous landscape. That is one. Second thing is another cloud enablement, fundamental thing that we have to enable everything in the SaaS product, and all the partners can plug and connect and play. Fundamental thing. Another thing there is the digital lever that should invest today. It is the analytics, as I already mentioned, descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. I'm giving you an example that how this an end-to-end supply chain, the predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics work, because I myself implemented a project for an American US customer with my team. There are 4 or 5 fundamental things that should know using the predictive analytics. I can know in the end-to-end supply chain. What is the distribution center, whether it is OEMs or partners or in third party, where the possible stock out situation may happen? What is the distribution center in particular Asia Pacific, where the possible overstock situation may happen? The stock out situation is a problem. Overstock situation is also a problem, right? I want to know that which particular product where there is a shipment delay is expected from my side. What is a particular raw material where the procurement delay is happening from my vendor side? These are the things that predictive analytics can help us visualize. Another thing is, suppose OEM has a choice. OEM all got the finished good. Now they are going to send the ship to location of customer. I can partner with 3 or 4, 5 or 6 3PL or 4PL. Right? I'm giving a use case. Now, with which 3PL or 4PL I should use in a particular case? Here also predictive analytics will help me with this particular combination of item, particular ship to location, particular pickup location with a historical transaction. 3PL1 is this. The success of 3PL1 is 89%. Success of 3PL2 is 85%. Success means it is like your OTIF, the perfect order fulfillment rate. It is on time, in full quantity, damage-free delivery, and document accuracy. The 4 scored fundamental perfect order fulfillment KPIs of the spot, but all the child KPIs are successful. We can say it's a successful delivery. Predictive analytics can help us identify the right partners for this particular 3PL transaction. Right? I'm giving you an example. So if you think of the digitalization, API, cloud, analytics, these are the fundamental requirements we're into invest to make this model successful. Additionally, that is thing coming here in this end-to-end visibility is blockchain, because supply chain visibility can ensure the visibility and movement of the material and inventory, both raw material, finished good, WIP, but their authentication of the transaction, whether there any forgery is happening, country of origin, provenance, that can be tracked to blockchain technology. We develop a solution, HCL, I work for HCL, develop a solution with one of our partners, joint solution with our product partner, we have a partnership, where we are applying blockchain technology with our supply chain, with the company who has their own supply chain control tower product. And this solution becomes very, very popular, right? It's a joint solution. So that is basically most important thing. So that is a thing, and if companies should invest in this area to make this initiative a success. So I can request the next panelist to also throw some light in this area. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So which part of digitalization should be fast-tracked in which area particularly? I would say that the IT strategy at all times should be aligned to the business strategy. So for instance, for a CPG company that has a very complex network, it would make sense to invest in an APS solution first, understand that what the bottlenecks and internal constraints of the supply chain are, and then project it on the digital solution. Beyond that, clearly there is a requirement to have it externally focused, collaborating with the customers, with the key retailers, and doing a CPFR out there on the downstream side with the customers. In the same vein, I would say that what we've seen in the planning side particularly is that many of these APA solutions, they take like hours and hours to run, and they have very little capability to do what if. So what is need of the hour is to quickly sense and then respond to the supply chain disruptive events. And what is going to be a game changer here for supply chains beyond the pandemic in the new normal is our ability to respond and our ability to weigh in that should I do a direct shipment? Now, if there is an increase in demand at a particular retailer, should I bypass my regional DC? So things like these, quick to act and quick to respond and quick to analyze from a cost perspective. What does it mean? What is my cost to serve? So this could be one. And the other thing talking about it is the supply chain twin, wherein many of the large Fortune 500 companies can have their entire physical supply chain represented on the digital twin, wherein you could have an end-to-end traceability that where is the issue in my supply chain, what are my inventory projections out there, and if there is a demand surge or if there is a production issue internally, can I reroute it from an alternate source? So that is one. And the other thing I would say is that which is very, very fundamental is the industry in which the customer is in. The specific supply chain also plays a very big role. For instance, for a logistics services provider, it would make sense to have visibility till the last mile and a transportation control tower with kind of key collaboration and visibility with actionable insights to the freight forwarders, to the inventory that is on the sea, to the airlines collaboration. All this would help. So that is how I would put it. There is no one size fits all, but these are some of the options that are there. And of course, analytics is something that people could really do right away with their existing investments. People have their ERP instances. They could project it onto a dashboard. It could be, there could be some latency in there, but at least it could be a starting point. So in all, it is dependent on the IT strategy aligned with the business strategy, and secondly, the nature of the industry and what is your biggest pain point. That's how I would like to close it.
Sure. Thanks. Thank you very much for sharing your insights there. And we are running short of time, as I know, but I just want to sum it up in terms of what was the overall thought process from the panel, as well as we are picking it from our keynote speaker as well. Yes, it is important from a end-to-end supply chain visibility as well as a digitalization perspective. In different areas within Indian industry, the approach might be different, but whenever we pick up that for any company or any organization, it has to be end-to-end integrated than having it segmented or by pockets. IT and business integration, IT and business strategic alignment is really important, but at the same time, a more partnership outside would also help us to get through the journey faster. As I close, I want to give a rapid fire to the entire panel, and then Nisosh, you can take it up. This is more of an important topic which all of us know, and the people who have joined in. Skills and opportunities is something everybody looks at. The new generation and the people who are coming out of college, who is having experience, who is upskilling. It's an important topic, and I'm sure that our participants are looking into that. So from E2E mindset, where do you believe that the individual should be focusing more on the technology side of it, and at the same time organization, inside to outside? Very quick, and then pass it on to your next panelist, please.
Just I'm going to start in them here. Very quickly, I'll mention from the skill perspective for the end-to-end thing, we need technical consultant. At the same time, we need functional consultant. Technical, because there are a lot of integration work, right? Technical connecting various partners and cloud enablement and analytics. So technical consultant having knowledge on integration, your cloud and analytics, they are preferred. And from the domain side, I think supply chain professional, we always prefer EPIC certified or SCOR certified professional. So EPIC, CSCP, CPM, and SCOR certified professionals, they can understand the domain and all the KPI interpretation of the domain thing. They're the best guys who can do this thing. So this, in my very nutshell, these kind of people are looking for in this particular field, and we are recruiting regularly of people having those kind of skills. So what is the next panelist?
Yes, sir. As Mr. Nair told, what are the key skills? Because now we have a very good platform with a lot of organizations like Epics. Now it is ACM. We have very good other organizations, which is with like a score framework they are providing. So they are providing because they cannot implement the solutions. They are providing the guidance. So that guidance, step by step guidance, complete step-by-step processes. What are the basic requirement or understanding is all done through these particular type of certification. You should not be I'm not saying do certifications, but yes, you go through the flow, and Epic's body of knowledge is very much important. If you go through that, then it will help you out to improve or to adopt the best practices which is being adopted across the supply chains. How supply chains, because now the organizations are not competing, now the supply chains are competing. Like earlier I was in LG Electronics, and we major competitor is Samsung and and Sony's. So now they both are now collaborating together in terms of deliveries. So they are sharing they are sharing the same 3PL like DHL. So they're sharing the same because they want to move to one particular area, and they are sharing their vehicles or sharing their other infrastructure, so they can compete based on point of supply chains. So these all knowledges or the certificate or body of knowledge is already available, and it's we have to go and to understand their concept and how they are paying more focus on the end-to-end collaborations across the supply chain partners. Thank you.
Just to close, I would say that the skills that are very significant are techno-functional skills and an understanding of the end-to-end process from process model 1 to 5 is kind of the key differentiator in any implementation that I have seen. And also data hygiene parameters coupled with the clarity and the vision of where you want to go, very clearly defined outcomes. So I would also second Kamal, and I would say that the need of the hour is to have a very good understanding, slick understanding of the process that underpins any of the technology initiatives that companies intend to embark upon. Thank you.
Thank you. In that case, over to you, Mr. And we might need another 5 minutes or so. Over to you. Thank you. Thanks, panel.
Thank you.
I think he's on mute. Mr. Are you there?
Yeah, sorry, Shiri. I did not realize. Thank you so much, panelists, for your wonderful insights. So let me just quickly jump onto the questions. So this is by Mr. Amarjit Singh. Was the dependency on China for the supply chain primarily driven by cheaper cost? What could have been done at the local countries to have this cost driven done instead of China being the factory of the world? Could India, for example, have driven some initiatives to reverse that and be self-sufficient? Do we see that? Do we see that in the future? Each country will move towards sustainability, basically.
Yeah, and especially I will want to answer here. Now,
Sure.
now in India point of view, if the government has taken a lot of initiative to promote various startups, and for example, now in case of air conditioners, now India they want, now we are in telecom shelters we buy air cons from the Chinese suppliers. Now they have put a anti-dumping duty or any type of restrictions that we cannot buy a complete build of air cons from their side, from China. So this is the first initiative, and also they're promoting that localization is most important here. Now a lot of peoples are coming forward, a lot of entrepreneurs are coming forward to with the because there is sentiments also involved that we have to go from Make in India, and particularly with the China after this war at the borders. Even now the common peoples and the common persons are also facing an issue that yes, we have to be dependent on Indian supply chain, and yes, but it cannot be done immediately. It takes another 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years to reduce the dependency from the China suppliers, because their focus is how they are providing the low cost product, because they are producing in volumes on volumes, due to which we are getting the low cost product. Yes, but we also, the Indian entrepreneurs are also working on the same directions, and now leather industry is also being promoted, and air cons, a lot of EMS is now being started in India for the air cons, because and yes, this cannot be done individually by the companies. Yes, Indian government or organization or government is playing a critical role over here. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. So we'll just take one more question here. I will take it on the digital front. So I'll just look for a specific question there. Yeah. So analytics is one of the most talked about words in supply chain, and we've just heard about how it can help, but only about 15-20% of projects targeting analytics and big data insights succeed. Do you concur? If yes, what are the key factors that would be looked into SCM context to prevent this? So I think Mr. Arindam or Mr. Uma can take the question.
So can you repeat? Sorry, I just missed that. All this.
Right. So analytics is one of the most talked about words in supply chain, and we just heard that how it can help, but only about 15-20% of projects targeting analytics and big data insights succeed. Do you concur? If what are the factors that should be looked in SCM context to prevent this?
Sure, I can pick it up, and from a business side of it for sure. And when I look at the latest one, also covers or connect to the same one. Like nowadays, industry is asking for R, Python, and other data scientist courses. Like that is also another area what people are either being asked or being pulled into developing themselves. Now, in the initial discussion, also we covered about data being available and having no use of that data. So in the earlier era, it was more of collecting the data. Now we don't know how to use. The only utilization what we used to have is that when a problem occurs. It's not going to help us, because that is more of a reactive approach. We have to be predictive in terms of staying ahead in the market, and that's where in small pockets in every company it has started as best practices. So taking people with the data analytics skill set, or bringing them on board, or collaborating with external agencies, consultant, as Mr. Arindam mentioned. But at the same time, it's more of a collaborative approach through proof of concepts in the areas like procurement, where we see significant challenges in terms of the cost escalation, cost surge, where we have been working on our regular practices till now. It was more of a traditional skill set of negotiation. Now it has changed. It is more of looking the entire value chain, specifically on the strategic sourcing side of it. How are we planning our suppliers? Are we placing it strategically aligned to the manufacturing location? And the end-to-end planning for procurement is also driven through the data-driven analytics. Every industry, every companies might be doing it differently, but I can talk about myself and my organization. We have a big focus on these areas.
Right, thank you so much. So due to shortage of time, and the panelists have more commitments coming ahead also. So we'll have to stop here. I see a lot of questions there being unanswered. I would request the audience to please connect with the speakers. I've shared their LinkedIn profile links with you on the chat. Please connect with them, and you can always take it up with them in the chat or personally. So thank you so much, panelists, for your such an interactive and such nice insights. I would just hand over to Mr. Ravindra Tulsian for final closing notes.
So I think we had a great session on the end-to-end visibility. There are a lot of takeaways from supply chain esteemed practitioners. Since this duty is bestowed on me on behalf of SCPC, I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Mr. Muthu. I think he disconnected, and Mr. Ram Prakash also, and especially their organization, Daimler, for hosting today's event. I also thank our panel moderator, Mr. Umakanth, our panelists, Ms. Sonal, Mr. Arindam, Mr. Kamal, for taking time out to share their experiences with the audience. SCPC highly values and acknowledges your contribution. Thank you so much. And the main force behind this entire initiative is Mr. Murugan. I must thank him for creating this platform for benefit of supply chain practitioners. The event was made possible with the efforts of Mr. Murugan, Professor Girish, Mr. Ram Prakash, Mr. Arvinder, and finally Mr. Nistush. I thank all of them for their efforts and active participation and guidance. And most importantly, I must thank all the listeners without whom this event would not have been have had any meaning. I hope this event added to their knowledge and vision, and there were at least few takeaways for them to immediately apply. I used to always tell professionals during counseling sessions that CSCP certification is little futuristic, that covers advanced topics on end-to-end supply chain management. But this pandemic has forcefully made end-to-end supply chain visibility and management more relevant than ever before and made CSCP knowledge of immediate use. So thank you all. Let me close the session here now. I know that most of us are locked down and probably will not be able to get out of in the weekend, but I wish you all a happy weekend indoors. Stay home, stay healthy, and stay safe. Thank you all, and bye-bye.